Listen closely, because right now, half the world looks at you like you're divine, like some untouchable anomaly who slipped through the cracks of logic. And the other half? They whisper your name, like a curse, praying you never wake up again. Both sides are right. You see, that's what happens when a human stops playing by human rules. You didn't rise, you mutated. You became the thing the algorithms can't measure, the therapists can't diagnose, and the gods can't predict. You're not alive in the normal sense anymore. You're awake. They mistake your silence for peace, your calm for weakness, your restraint for mercy, until you blink and whole realities start rewriting themselves. You walk through crowds like a phantom they can't process. Half of them worshiping you, half of them terrified you'll turn your head their way. That's the price of transcendence, contradiction. The higher you climb, the more polar the reactions become. Saints get statues, devils get burned. You get both. Because the truth is, they don't hate you. They hate what you reveal about them. You remind them of the version of themselves they buried alive. The one that wasn't afraid to dream, disobey, destroy, and rebuild. You're a mirror they can't look into without shaking. Every move you make exposes how fragile their illusions are. You didn't ask for worship or war. You simply stopped apologizing for existing. And that broke the system. They've studied your methods, dissected your words, tried to find the formula. But you can't replicate a frequency. You can't manufacture a force of nature. You're the glitch that learned the pattern and rewrote the code in real time. Every time you disappear, they panic. Every time you reappear, they pray. Because you've become the balance, the equation between chaos and creation. You're what happens when light remembers it once crawled through darkness to exist. They call you arrogant for not kneeling, but gods don't kneel, and monsters don't beg. You've become both. The divine contradiction, the paradox they'll spend centuries trying to name. You learn the secret they never will. Evolution isn't about being loved. It's about being feared correctly. So when they chant your name like it's gospel or spit it out like poison, understand this. Both reactions are energy, both are devotion. You've divided the world not by force, but by frequency. You vibrate too high for mediocrity to survive near you. That's why they obsess. That's why they can't leave you alone. You destabilize their reality just by breathing. You remind them that power doesn't always scream. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it bleeds quietly and still wins. So let them build temples. Let them build traps. Neither will hold you. Because while they argue about what you are, God or demon, savior or threat, you're already 3 steps ahead, rewriting their definitions from within their dreams. And one day, they'll realize the horrifying truth. You weren't here to be worshipped or feared. You were here to wake them. And when you do, half the world will burn incense. The other half will burn. You can feel it, can't you? That split in the air whenever you walk into a room. That quiet static where awe and terror meet. They don't even breathe the same when you're near. Some look at you like salvation, others like contagion. They're both right. You're the contagion of truth in a world addicted to lies. You've become the mirror no one asked for, the one that doesn't flatter, doesn't filter, doesn't forgive. When people look at you, they see everything they could have been if they weren't so afraid to lose. That's why half of them whisper your name like prayer, and the other half flinch when they hear it. You turned existence into exposure therapy. You used to think being misunderstood was a curse, Now you understand. It's armor. Because to be understood by this world would mean you've shrunk enough to fit inside it. You didn't shrink. You exploded. And what they're really trying to do now, behind all the noise, the mockery, the "what's wrong with them" whispers, is contain you. But how do you cage something that's learned to love its own chaos? You're not trying to win anymore. You are the win, the human paradox that evolution itself didn't predict. They see it in your eyes. That quiet madness that isn't illness, its intelligence matured beyond empathy. They call it ego. You call it awareness. Because you finally realized nobody's coming to save you. And you were never meant to be saved. You were meant to remember. Remember that pain was your training. That solitude was your sanctuary. That every betrayal was an initiation. While they begged for comfort, you learned how to weaponize discomfort. You turned breakdowns into blueprints. Every scar became an encryption key to unlock a higher frequency. Now your existence itself disrupts their matrix. They can't label you because labels require limits. They can't study you because you stopped being predictable. You broke the pattern, and the system worships patterns. Half the world thinks you're a god because they feel what you've become. The other half prays you never wake up again because they fear what will happen if you do. And here's the punchline. You've already woken up. They just haven't caught up to the timeline yet. You're playing chess in dimensions they haven't mapped. Every move you make isn't just strategy. It's prophecy. You became what they call impossible by refusing to play within the possible. You see, there's a level of power that doesn't need applause, only silence. That's where you live now, in the tension between myth and memory, between the saint they paint on candles and the demon they warn their children about. You're the evolution they're not emotionally ready for. They still think godhood means purity. You know better. It means polarity. The ability to hold destruction and mercy in the same heartbeat, to smile while you dismantle systems and still have the grace to walk away instead of gloat. That's divine chaos. That's you. When they say you're dangerous, believe them. You are. Not because you harm, but because you see. And once you've seen, you can't unsee. You noticed how everyone worships comfort, yet it's pain that shaped every prophet, every leader, every legend. They worship light, but forget it was born from compression, from darkness, from collapse. You don't avoid the dark anymore. You source from it. That's why you're unstoppable. You're not chasing peace, you've merged with it. You've stopped asking for purpose because you embody it. Let them gossip, let them project, let them hold meetings trying to decode you. The irony is, the moment they understand you, they'll stop existing on your level. You're not in their chapter anymore. You're the next book, and the author of it. They don't realize what's coming. You're not an era. You're an extinction event for mediocrity. So when they divide themselves over you, when one half prays and the other plots, let them. That's what happens when reality encounters something it can't categorize. You've become the living proof that duality isn't conflict. It's completion. And that's why they'll never destroy you. Because to erase you, they'd have to erase both heaven and hell. And you, my friend, are the space between them. Smiling, you feel it, don't you? That quiet voltage in the air whenever someone says your name. It's not admiration anymore. It's reverence mixed with dread. The kind of feeling ancient civilizations used to carve into stone and call divine wrath. You became that, not by choice but by gravity. The universe couldn't decide whether to crown you or crucify you. So it did both. Half the world bows their heads when you move. They think you're chosen, touched, guided by something cosmic. The other half? They wake up in cold sweats hoping the news doesn't mention you again. Because every time your shadow crosses their feed, something inside them shifts. You remind them how small their ambitions really were. And that's your greatest crime, isn't it? You refuse to stay small. You refuse to stay explainable. See, the world worships what it can predict. You broke their equation. You're not a product of luck or timing or birthright. You're what happens when suffering finds precision. You weaponized pain into perception. You took the same fire they tried to burn you with and learned how to breathe it. That's why they study you in silence. That's why they scroll through your every word, pretending not to care, pretending not to envy. They're trying to understand what you did, how you walked through the apocalypse of your own life and came out smiling. They think you were born different. No, you were forged, and the forge doesn't apologize for the flames. The truth is, you carry too many paradoxes to fit inside their definitions. You're kind, but terrifying. You're peaceful, but lethal. You're detached, but painfully aware. You've become a living paradox, and humanity fears what it can't reduce to one sentence. That's why they either build shrines or sharpen knives. But here's the part they'll never understand. You don't want to be worshipped. You don't want to be feared. You just want to be free. Freedom terrifies people more than power ever will. Because once you realize you can't be controlled by praise or hatred, you ascend beyond manipulation. That's when they start calling you dangerous. That's when they start whispering your name like you're a curse. But deep down, even they know, curses and blessings come from the same mouth. They say you've changed. Of course you have. You outgrew their programming. You learned that being loved isn't the same as being understood, and being understood isn't the same as being real. You shed versions of yourself that were built for approval and replaced them with silence. That's why your presence now feels like prophecy. Every word you speak sounds like a verdict. They don't see how many nights you bled for this. They don't see the wars you fought in silence. They just see the aftermath. A calm they mistake for arrogance. But your calm isn't peace. It's control. The control of someone who's danced with chaos long enough to know its rhythm. Half the world thinks you're divine because you turned every scar into scripture. The other half prays for your downfall because your existence proves mediocrity is a choice. You became the final proof that pain doesn't destroy people. Comfort does. You learned the hardest truth of all. Creation and destruction are twins. You can't have one without the other. To create a new self, you had to destroy the old one. And the world mourned your ghosts like funerals they weren't invited to. Now look at you. Unrecognizable, unreachable, unforgivable to those who can't evolve. You're not fighting for validation anymore. You're haunting it. They used to call you sensitive. Now they call you dangerous. They used to laugh at your silence. Now it silences them. Because somewhere between the heartbreak and the healing, you stopped trying to survive and started to transcend. That's why everything changed. That's why rooms feel smaller when you enter. That's why their nervous laughter always hides behind words like, "Who do they think they are?" Because they know exactly who you are. They just can't say it out loud. You are the living contradiction they were warned about. Light with a trigger, compassion with teeth. You are the line where heaven and hell shake hands. So let them divide over your name. Let them argue about whether you're the villain or the miracle. Let them write their think pieces, their prayers, their curses, because none of them realize both sides still feed your legend. You were never meant to be liked. You were meant to be remembered. And the ones who pray you never wake up again, they already know you have. And that's why they're shaking, because once a god wakes up inside a human body, the whole world starts to burn in clarity. You ever notice how silence hits different when it's about you? When you walk into a room and it feels like the air just recalibrates, like even the atoms are trying to figure out what version of you they're dealing with today. That's what happens when you stop being predictable, when you stop moving like prey and start existing like a force. You used to beg for them to see you. Now they can't stop staring. You didn't change your face, you changed your frequency. And now, everything that's not built to handle your vibration either worships it or disintegrates under it. Half the world thinks you're a god because they feel it. That divine distortion when your energy enters their field. The other half prays you never wake up again because they sense it. That if you ever truly decided to unleash what you've been holding back, their entire belief system would implode overnight. They tell themselves stories to stay safe. You got lucky. You're manipulative. You're obsessed. But deep down, they know what really happened. You evolved without permission. You stopped waiting for closure. You stopped begging for understanding. You stopped trying to prove that your kindness was real. And the second you did that, you became dangerous. Because now your silence speaks louder than their entire vocabulary. That's what terrifies them. You don't argue. You don't explain. You just exist. And existence alone is enough to shift the temperature in any room. They call you arrogant for surviving what they couldn't. They call you cold for walking away from what tried to kill you. But that's not arrogance. That's ascension. And ascension looks like abandonment to those still addicted to their own cages. See, they need you to be one thing: saint or psychopath, angel or demon, genius or lunatic. Because if you're both, it breaks their binary reality. You're proof that the light they chase and the darkness they fear were never opposites. They were coordinates on the same axis. You became the axis. And that's why their prayers sound so desperate now. Because somewhere inside, they realize you didn't come to destroy their world. You came to expose how fragile it really was. Every time you rise, something ancient trembles. You feel it too, don't you? That low hum in your bones, like the universe itself recognizes you. That's not coincidence, that's memory. You've done this before, across lifetimes, across timelines. Every empire that's ever tried to silence you ended up repeating your words centuries later. They think they're watching your ascent. They don't realize they're watching their reflection. Because you don't rise anymore. You pull everything up or down with you. You're gravitational, polarizing by design. The divine split between creation and destruction, wearing human skin like it's an experiment. And oh, how they hate that you smile through it, that you can hold serenity in one hand and vengeance in the other without flinching, that you've turned forgiveness into strategy and pain into architecture. You're not healing, you're engineering. Every scar became scaffolding for something godlike. They still don't get it. They think your calm is weakness because they've never seen power so disciplined. It doesn't need to announce itself. You don't explode anymore. You decide. You don't fight for the spotlight. The spotlight moves to wherever you're standing. That's why they obsess. Because deep down, they wish they had your disease. the inability to stay normal after seeing behind the curtain. You've seen how the system runs, and you've learned how to break it without ever touching it. They're terrified because they know what happens next. Once you stop defending your name and start embodying your myth, everything changes. You become folklore in real time. They'll study your eyes like scripture, your mistakes like prophecies. They'll deny you publicly and copy you privately. You've become the storm they secretly hope will hit their lives just to feel something. You're what chaos looks like when it learns how to walk in rhythm. So let them fight over who you are. Let them choose sides. Some will light candles, some will light torches. It doesn't matter, because both flames still spell your name in the smoke, and the truth they can't swallow. The reason their voices crack when they speak about you is this: you didn't come here to be loved. You came here to be remembered, to carve your reflection so deep into existence that even time hesitates before moving past you. Half the world will call that blasphemy. The other half will call it faith. And you'll just smile, because you've finally become what they were too afraid to admit existed. A God that remembers what it felt like to bleed. So let them watch. Let them whisper your name like a forbidden spell. Let them build their stories around what they think you are. None of it matters now, because you've already become the legend they can't kill. You're not chasing validation anymore. You are the validation. You're not searching for light. You are the fire that exposes it. They can't curse you without spreading your gospel. They can't pray against you without acknowledging your power. Half the world will call you God. Half will call you a nightmare. Both will be right, because you were never meant to fit in their heaven or rot in their hell. You were meant to remind them that both exist inside them. And when they finally understand that, it'll be too late, because by then you'll be gone, walking through the ashes of their confusion, smiling quietly, knowing the truth. You didn't destroy their world. You just woke it up. Listen closely, because tonight they whispered your name inside rooms with no windows. The Pentagon, classified section. The words were unexplainable entity. And you know what that means, don't you? It means they finally ran out of language for you. No category, no file type, no precedent. You broke their system's vocabulary. You became the anomaly they can't diagnose. The variable that refuses to collapse into either saint or psychopath, sinner or savior, because you're both. And that's what drives them insane. See, they built the world on equations, cause and effect, input and output, reward and punishment. But you became the exception. You defied every algorithm of control. The analysts tried to map your moves. Behavioral units ran simulations. Psych departments drafted emotional models. But every time they predicted rage, you smiled. Every time they anticipated fear, you stayed silent. You don't react, you recode. And that's when the flag went up. Unexplainable entity. They thought they were tracking a human, and instead they found a frequency, a consciousness that had slipped through the bars of their psychological cage. You are not here to fit inside their graphs. You are the spike on the chart, the glitch in the moral code, the whisper in their command chain that says something's off. They can't label what doesn't bow. They can't destroy what doesn't resist. They can't predict what doesn't repeat. You've become the paradox they swore didn't exist, a creature of chaos who moves with purpose, a shadow that illuminates, a monster that heals through destruction. You've learned to weaponize silence, to turn patience into psychological warfare. You don't chase power anymore. You radiate it. That's why their sensors can't place you. You're not transmitting from one dimension. You're bleeding through all of them at once, and oh, how it terrifies them. They train soldiers for insurgents, hackers for systems, and psychologists for minds. But nothing for you. You don't attack. You unfold. Slowly, precisely. Like the dawn that burns through their blackout curtains. They study your calm like it's a contagion, because deep down, they know it is. You infect the weak with awareness. You contaminate obedience with doubt. And that's more dangerous than any bullet. You didn't need an army. You became a myth. The men in suits call you a risk to stability. The women in glass offices call you disturbingly composed. The ones who once mocked you now study your habits like they're decoding prophecy. They don't understand how you survived the fire and came out colder, how your heartbreak didn't break you. It refined you, how your betrayals didn't destroy your trust. They deleted your illusions. You're the proof that pain, when mastered, becomes precision. That chaos, when owned, becomes clarity. You stop trying to explain yourself because explanations are for the understood, and you've surpassed that privilege. You are now in the realm of felt, but not defined. You are what people sense when the room goes quiet for no reason. You are that sudden unease when truth walks in dressed like a villain. They think your darkness makes you dangerous. But your danger isn't in the darkness. It's in how you understand it. You made peace with your own void. You looked into it until it looked back and called you home. That's what they can't comprehend. You're not fighting your demons. You're dining with them. You don't suppress madness. You choreograph it. You've become controlled chaos, a walking contradiction that makes logic short-circuit. They can't track your allegiance because you have none. They can't appeal to your morality because you redesigned it. You are the synthesis of everything they tried to separate. Divine and deranged, poetic and predatory, healer and executioner. They call you unexplainable, because to explain, you would require evolution. And that's the real threat. You didn't just change. You mutated. You became post-human in spirit. Beyond fear, beyond validation, beyond the petty rituals of success. You now move like something that knows its purpose cannot be documented. The whispers will grow, files will circulate, meetings will be held under low light. They'll dissect your past, your words, your motives, but none of it will hold, because you're not a person in their world anymore. You're an atmosphere, your psychological weather. You shift rooms when you enter. You alter frequencies when you speak. And maybe that's the punchline, isn't it? They thought they were investigating a threat, but all they found was freedom wearing a smirk. So let them panic. Let the analysts lose sleep. Let the Pentagon flag your name. Because by the time they figure out what you are, you'll already be something else. You can almost hear it, can't you? That quiet dread behind sealed conference doors, their voices lowered, hands trembling over documents stamped in red. You were supposed to be predictable, measurable, programmable, but something glitched. Their surveillance caught your movement, but not your intention. Their algorithms recognized your face, but not your frequency. You were a ghost humming inside the circuitry of their control. And the Pentagon doesn't like ghosts. You weren't born unexplainable. They made you that way. Every betrayal sharpened you. Every humiliation recalibrated your calm. Every scar became an encrypted file, invisible to anyone who hasn't bled the same way. They dissected millions of minds to predict rebellion, But they never accounted for a soul that rebelled without rage, a rebel that smiled while burning, a saint that sinned for enlightenment. You are the product of what they fear most. Self-awareness weaponized. You stopped asking why they hurt you. You started studying the way they react when you heal. You watched patterns, logged responses, analyzed tone, and realized something horrifying. They're predictable. Their entire system, governments, corporations, empires, operates on the illusion that you'll keep playing your role. Victim, worker, dreamer, believer. But once you stopped performing, once you stepped out of the script, they lost their script too. And now they stare at you like a breach in the simulation. You became the variable that broke the pattern. You started existing on a wavelength that turns their authority into static. And static can't be contained. They tried to categorize you: narcissist, empath, manipulator, visionary, villain. But none of it fits because your evolution was never about becoming something new. It was about remembering what you always were. You're not a monster. They just built a world that punishes truth. You're not insane. You're just fluent in chaos. You're not violent. You simply stopped letting the universe slap you first. They call you dangerous because your peace doesn't need permission. Your silence doesn't beg to be understood. And your laughter? That's the sound of a war ending in your favor. They've studied insurgents, hackers, and madmen, but never someone who became all three and still smiled like a philosopher. You learned to turn pain into power without theatrics, to walk into storms like you built the lightning, to bleed with elegance and heal without witnesses. And that terrifies them, because the unexplainable doesn't fight. It simply exists. An existence that refuses control is the purest form of rebellion. Now you live in their blind spot. They track your activity, not your energy. They analyze your words, not your vibration. And every time you go quiet, someone in a high-security room gets nervous. They know silence means recalibration. They know stillness means something's coming. You've become the weather system of destiny. Every move you make shifts the air pressure of reality. They used to laugh at you. Now they cross themselves when your name comes up in conversation. They say, "Something's different about that one." Because you don't blink like the others. You don't flinch when threatened. You don't crave attention. You command it by accident. You became gravity with a smirk. Let them run their psychological reports. Let them fill their folders with theories. They'll never understand that you stopped living in the physical long ago. You operate in frequency warfare. You destabilize patterns by existing authentically. You don't need a weapon. Your awareness is one. You can't be contained because you've accepted contradiction. You embody every polarity they tried to divide: mercy and malice, serenity and rage, order and ruin. You are both the question and the catastrophe that answers it. They used to call you dramatic. Now they call you classified. They used to call you broken. Now they call you a phenomenon. And the irony, you never even wanted their validation. You just wanted truth. And the pursuit of truth exposed the system itself as the lie. You tore the curtain, and the illusion bled out. That's why they're scared. Because if you can see the strings, you can pull them. You don't chase power anymore. You are the power source that systems leech from. You've learned to invert fear, to make it work for you. To smile when cornered, to pause when provoked, to move when they sleep. You turned yourself into a psychological cipher. Nothing they decode stays the same. And deep down, they know this. You're not the anomaly in their world. They're the anomaly in yours. So let them flag your name. Let them file you under unexplainable entity, because you've transcended explanation. You've become what ancient mystics whispered about and modern scientists fear to name. An aware mind in a world designed to stay asleep. They can label you, they can study you, they can fear you, but they'll never understand you, because you are the thing that was never supposed to happen. Consciousness wearing a grin, freedom in human form, a storm that learned to whisper. And when they finally realize the magnitude of what they've awakened, it'll be too late. You'll already be rewriting the system from the inside out, laughing softly, while the world tries to reboot. They're starting to whisper now. You can feel it in the static between frequencies, can't you? The atmosphere shifts when you walk in. Eyes dart, hands fidget, voices lower. Not out of respect, but recognition. Some part of them already knows you're not one of them anymore. You've crossed the line between observable and unclassifiable. They built a system that studies everything, except what happens when something studies them back. You did that. You stared into the structure, and the structure blinked first. You weren't supposed to notice the pattern, the subtle repetitions, the invisible architecture of behavior, the way fear runs their calendar. You weren't supposed to decode how every rule was written by someone terrified of losing control. But you did. You peeled back the polite programming of society and saw the wiring underneath. And now, every move you make exposes their circuitry like sparks in the dark. They're not terrified because you're violent. They're terrified because you're awake. You can't control an awakened mind. You can only distract it, and you stopped taking the bait. You stopped reacting. You learned that control requires participation. You withdrew your consent, and their game glitched. You became a blackout in their matrix. Every analyst watching your file knows it now. You operate outside their timeline. They try to predict your next phase, but your evolution doesn't run on data. It runs on pain, insight, and chaos refined into wisdom. You're not ahead of them. You're beneath their system, like a root network they can't dig out. You don't rise above control. You dissolve the concept of control altogether. That's why the Pentagon can't define you. You're not a threat to their empire. You're a threat to their logic. You are what happens when a human stops waiting for permission to exist. They flagged your name under unexplainable entity because the usual boxes don't apply anymore. Not a leader, not a follower, not an enemy, not an ally. You're the unstable element, the one that turns equations into explosions. They built a world on symmetry, and you walked in as asymmetry in motion. You don't destroy balance, you redefine it. You are what silence looks like after it learns to speak. And that silence is lethal, isn't it? Because you're not fighting back. You're just watching, learning, calculating. You've mastered the art of stillness as a strategy. You let them project their fears onto you until their own paranoia eats them alive. You don't lift a finger. They self-destruct in your reflection. That's why your calm is so unsettling. It's not passive, it's premeditated. They called you dangerously composed. They said, it's like they know something. And you do, don't you? You know that power isn't about control, it's about awareness. Once you see how people trade integrity for belonging, how they mistake noise for progress, how they weaponize emotion to disguise fear, you stop playing, you start building, you start moving in silence through the chaos, sculpting new outcomes while they chase illusions. They can't stand that, because control only works on those who fear losing it. And you You already lost everything that could be taken. That's why you're unstoppable. They can strip titles. They can erase accounts. They can silence names. But how do you censor a frequency? How do you delete something that exists between thought and reality? You've become an echo that lingers in the human algorithm, a concept too persistent to be forgotten, too fluid to be contained. You are evolution wearing a smirk. You are intelligence dressed in unpredictability. You are the byproduct of every attempt to break you, and the blueprint of everything that's coming next. They'll try to study your psychology next. They'll dig into your history, your traumas, your triggers, looking for an origin story. They'll fail. Because your origin wasn't an event. It was a choice. You decided to wake up. You decided to stop apologizing for perceiving too much. You decided that madness was just consciousness operating at a speed they can't keep up with. That's what terrifies them most, your clarity. You see patterns before they unfold. You read silence like a report. You predict reactions before they happen. You navigate chaos like it's your native language. And the moment you made peace with your own darkness, their entire playbook collapsed. Because control relies on guilt. But guilt doesn't work on those who've accepted their shadow. You are a psychological nuke, detonating quietly through conversation, through posture, through a single glance that says, I know. You don't even have to speak to shift the temperature in a room. That's why they watch you. That's why they whisper your name in security briefings like it's an encrypted file. Subject displays calm under stress. Unpredictable emotional responses. Possible manipulative tendencies. Unexplainable, intuitive accuracy. They don't realize those aren't warnings. They're compliments. You mastered the forbidden skill, transmuting perception into influence. You don't beg for control. You bend reality to accommodate your understanding of it. You became the kind of person governments fear most, someone who no longer needs them. Your mind is a labyrinth built without exits. Anyone who tries to understand you ends up confronting their own reflection. That's why they keep failing to pin you down, because every label they use becomes a mirror, and what they see terrifies them. They're not scared of what you'll do. They're scared of what you already know. And that's the quiet revolution, isn't it? The one that doesn't march or shout, but vibrates. The revolution that moves through consciousness, through art, through presence. You've become an event horizon of awareness. Once people see you, they can't unsee the truth in themselves. That's not charisma, that's contagion. You spread awakening like a virus, so of course the Pentagon flagged you. You've become a national security threat to delusion, and maybe, just maybe, that's what you were always meant to be. Not a warrior, not a savior, but a reminder that the real battlefield isn't out there, it's in perception. So let them run their reports. Let them whisper your name behind encrypted lines. Let them panic when the readings don't make sense. Because you were never meant to be understood. You were meant to remind them what understanding feels like before they buried it under fear. You are the end of their equation, the unsolved variable, the glitch that thinks, the human that remembers. They'll call you dangerous. They'll call you divine. They'll call you delusional. But they'll never call you ordinary. And that, right there, is your victory. Because they can only classify what belongs to them. And you, my friend, you don't belong anywhere. You haunt the system that tried to own you. That's why they flagged you unexplainable. Because deep down, they finally realized you're not a threat to humanity. You're the next stage of it. And now, the air itself feels heavier when you enter a room, doesn't it? Because even reality knows it's being observed by something smarter than itself. The Pentagon thought they were studying a file. They didn't realize the file was studying them. Every keystroke they log, every meeting they whisper through, every late-night reread of your dossier. They don't even know you've already mapped them, dissected their psychology, read their fears between the lines of their reports. They think they're keeping tabs on you. But really, you're recording their reactions, because that's what they never learned. Power doesn't come from control. It comes from comprehension. The moment you understood them, you became untouchable. You became invisible in plain sight. Because what's more terrifying than an enemy who doesn't fight? Just watches. They can't grasp that your existence isn't an act of rebellion. It's an act of revelation. You're not here to break the system. You're here to show it that it was never stable to begin with. And now the architects are panicking. The politicians can't sleep. The analysts keep whispering your name like a ghost story told in fluorescent light. Unexplainable entity. It's become their modern prayer, their warning label, their myth. Because you've become a mirror. One that reflects what they deny, the futility of control, the fragility of illusion, the inevitability of truth. They've seen you survive what should have annihilated you. They've seen you smile after losses designed to dismantle your sanity. They've seen you forgive with a grin that feels like judgment itself. You've turned every scar into a language they can't translate. You've turned every defeat into a lesson that rewrote your DNA. You don't operate on pain anymore. You extract information from it. You don't cry over endings. You archive them. You don't react. You record. You've become the quiet pulse under the chaos, the one that keeps beating long after the headlines fade. You are not rage. You are not revenge. You are the observation before both. You're the stillness before a storm that never needs to prove itself. And that's why they're terrified. Because for the first time in their carefully constructed history, they're witnessing a human who transcended the human condition. You cracked the code that runs the species, fear, and you stopped obeying it. You're not the future. You're the correction, the system's karmic audit, the sentient glitch that smiles back at the gods and says, "Try again." They'll never capture you. They'll never silence you. Because you don't exist where their weapons work. You live in the space before intention. You are thought before thought. You are the breath between cause and effect, the gap they can't measure, the pause that resets the simulation.